What is going on, Minnesota Viking fans? Welcome to the Purple People Podcast. My name is Kyle Smith, and I'm here to bring ices back one by one. The ice pops. You guys, I think I have a problem. If you guys were here,
I think that rocking intro leads to expectations that we can't match.
It's a good intro.
People just start rocking out, and then here we come. Hi.
Hey, we've got ices to talk about.
Welcome to episode 559 of the Purple People Podcast. The rookies are here. We're going to talk about rookie minicamp that's going on.
We have all decided the career path of one JJ McCarthy based on a 3.5-minute video of rookie minicamp. We know whether or not he is a bust or a future Hall of Famer. No, I'm kidding. We have no idea. But we're going to speculate.
Rick Spielman likes JJ McCarthy, so that's something.
Oh, God. That means my opinion has just shifted.
I hate him immediately. Yeah.
Now I have no faith.
It's going to be like Ponder. Well, statistically, Charlotte, I'm going to start the show off on a really bad note. Statistically, mathematically, the probability says he was more likely to be like Ponder than he is like Joe Burrow. So,
you know what? I don't think we have to worry about that because JJ McCarthy has at least been on winning football teams. Like, that's got to count for something, right?
Up until now, yes. We can get right into it today talking about him.
I believe in the kid.
Listen, I will put this out there first and foremost. Like the Vikings, I was very interested in Drake May, as it'll be on a server to outlast humanity, like I always say. It's on the internet forever. I liked Drake May more than JJ McCarthy. Does that mean that I don't like JJ McCarthy? Absolutely not. Stand-up kid, very young, on a bunch of winning teams, can do some very unique things. He was in a kind of unique situation. That being said, I'm just going to roll right into it. Shout out to my buddy Mike. We didn't really get into it per se on Twitter. We just had a disagreement, which I like that we can have a respectful conversation about. He wants JJ McCarthy to start now. I think that's the worst idea possible. If you're on a rookie deal and you have Sam Darnold here for a 1-year rental, you let JJ McCarthy learn the system. And when it's time for him to jump in, yes, if I have it my way, JJ McCarthy doesn't take a snap this season.
But what if McCarthy is ready?
That's what I was going to say, Adam.
If he is ready, and he clearly, like Russell Wilson did the year that he got to Seattle, and it's like, no, he's the guy. Who am I to say that?
Because Minnesota coaches are already saying that he's ahead of expectation as far as the learning curve.
I think the smart way to approach it right now is like, hey, Sam Darnold, he's your veteran. You brought him in. He's, he's gonna be your starter. But I don't think that you just automatically go, well, JJ McCarthy is not going to play at all. That's the wrong way to approach it.
Yeah, I don't have Darnold inked in as the starter at the moment. I have him penciled in because that can still be erased.
Mm-hmm. I think that if he goes out there and if he wins this job, then he wins the job and he starts for the Vikings. I'm okay with that. I totally get what you're saying, though, Smith, is that in a perfect world, Sam Darnold looks amazing for the Vikings. And you go, hey, he can start, and we feel like we can win some football games if we can get that year out of him. The best year that he's had can be in Minnesota. And then Darnold goes
on in week 2 and people decide who goes in.
Well, here's my thought process on it. I want people to understand the context in which I'm saying this. I want him to earn the job, and if he's the better quarterback and the coaches think that they can roll with him, and it's not going to be like, well, they're kind of right here. No. He's clearly won this job, and he's better. He's going to better move the offense. Do what you need to do. I'm not saying that, but there is an adjustment period from being on a professional football team in college in the Michigan Wolverines and dominating the shit out of everyone. And don't make it – I'm going to highlight some of the negatives in this show. You don't get to just hand the ball off 38 times in the NFL. That's not how it works, and especially not on this team. I love this team.
Did you have you heard the conspiracy theory? Well, it's not really a conspiracy theory, but the fan theory that the Vikings social media team took a little jab at everyone when the very first highlight they showed of JJ McCarthy was him doing a handoff.
That's funny.
there's probably nothing to that, but it is super funny if like someone was like, "Wouldn't it be funny if?"
I watched a ton of McCarthy's video. Is he as I'm not going to say as good, but does he have a solid play action fake?
See, that's the thing. I think he's going to be fine in that aspect, and he reminds me of Cousins a little bit that way.
Yeah, because
I
that's
think
where Cousins really excelled, and
that's
that
the best
play
thing he
action has
did while
opened
he
up
was
a ton
here.
for Jefferson.
And to your point, Adam, that was a pro-style offense in Michigan. Granted, they had a heavy run. The thing that I love about JJ was in college, he had the option, unlike a Drake May or whatever. He has to look at the line, change. He could change protections, which he did. The problem was he was on the absolute best team. He is not walking into Kansas City or Philadelphia or San Francisco. They have better teams than this team. I like this team. I like the personnel that we have. I think those teams have slightly better personnel or coaches, but that's the adjustment phase. And I just want him not to be thrown into the wolves, because I think if you do that too early, too often, you're going to ruin a quarterback. And then to kind of defend Darnold, because a lot of people shit on Sam Darnold. I don't care who you are, JJ McCarthy or whomever ex-quarterback you can throw in. Anyone on those Jets teams, as we've seen for the last 50 years, and those Panther teams that Sam Darnold was on, they're not good. Both of those teams have picked in the top 10.
Was he there?
for
Was
the
he
last 10
when?
years.
Was he in Carolina with Matt Rule
He was.
as the head coach? All right, I'm not gonna immediately. I'm like that doesn't. Well, that does not count.
And Kyle. Here's the unfair comparison I'm going to make. Do you think? And he hasn't taken a snap in the NFL, but I'm just using it just to kind of be snarky. JJ McCarthy right now goes to those Jets teams or that Carolina team. Is he going to save them? Fuck no, he's not going to save them. I'm not going to say that Sam Darnold is going to come in here and save the Vikings.
Who's the kid that's in? Who's the kid that's in Carolina right now? Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. And
they've already ruined his career. Like, he needs out of that franchise so bad. I feel so bad for him.
And that's the beauty of doing the back and forth of this. The team that JJ McCarthy came to, if it's true, he said he wanted to come here. Great. I think there's a ton of pieces.
I believe that 100%.
I love this head coach so much. I think he is such a good buffer and a communicator to young players in general, but quarterback especially. I just want, and my preface for saying that I don't want him to play any games this year would be, if you are not ready to go out there, there is no need to rush him, because all of the analytics and the statistics of every season prior of every team say if you throw a quarterback out there, they're going to look more like Bryce Young last year than C.J. Stroud.
But let's take a second and look at that from a little bit of a different angle here. So we all know Sam Darnold from his struggles in the past, whether it was with the Jets, Panthers, or even him looking disappointed in San Francisco. But what are the expectations for him in Minnesota now? Because he is that insurance quarterback that Minnesota brought in to be there until J.J. McCarthy is ready. So what should we expect? Not what should we hope for, but what should we expect from Sam Darnold?
I expect him. Oh, you can go, Smith.
No, I'm trying to articulate. I wanted to make a comparison, but that's not fair. So go ahead.
My expectations for him is I don't expect him to come in and, wow, he's in the race for MVP after 2-3 weeks of playing for the Minnesota Vikings. No, he's going to come in. He's going to have a couple stupid turnovers that you're going to go, holy shit, that pisses me off that he threw that. But I think he can come in and he can be efficient with the football, and he can get the ball in the hands of our playmakers. And you don't expect him to, shoulder the entire team. You expect him to be that game manager that we all hate that term, but just go in and manage the game and be efficient and minimize the mistakes. And I think that that's a reasonable expectation for him in Minnesota.
I think that if he is Gardner Minshew, it's a 100% win for this team. I don't expect him, like you said, to be in the MVP race. I don't expect him to wow. Maybe he'll have moments and flashes. Maybe this will be the best version we've ever seen. That's more me leaning to the hopeful side. What I hope happens is he has a Baker Mayfield type of year where he plays so good that another team will give him a shot if they're in between, and they'll give him a 2 or 3 year deal. Hopeful is
like Atlanta.
Why not? They could use another quarterback, right? I hope that he is Gardner Minshew, and if that's what he is for us for a season, that is okay. Because what I don't like is that everybody refers to, well, he was a number 2 or 3 overall pick. You don't get a choice where you get drafted unless you're Eli Manning and you just don't go there. Where the number that you get drafted is, it's up to you based on your play, but it depends on the needs of a team, what that happened in that offseason, blah, blah, blah. I don't put that on him, and I don't consider him to be that kind of talent. That's not up to him. He's a veteran in the league, and I guess, Adam, to answer your question, I was trying to think of this while Kyle was talking. I expect him to be Nick Mullins without as many turnovers. That's what I expect from him. You should be better than Nick Mullins because he's been a career backup his whole career because you have that pedigree. But I also don't think in the same breath that you're going to come in and be like, damn, we got Dak Prescott on a 1-year deal. Like, that ain't happening, It should
be. So what if Sam Darnold comes in and plays well enough that you really don't want to change things up, and J.J. McCarthy is still sitting there and he's like, well, I'm ready. Do you keep McCarthy waiting?
Yes.
No. Because if he plays well, and after we just praise Sam Darnold, I'm going to knock Sam Darnold. You're not putting your eggs in that basket. You're going to assume, I'm going to assume that, hey, he had a Case Keenum season. All right. Sometimes quarterbacks just have that in them. The right situation, the right schedule, the right time. Could Sam Darnold pull that off? Hell yeah, he could. He could.
But Smith is absolutely right. If Darnold comes out and has a great season, and he gets signed somewhere to where Minnesota can get a compensatory pick, that makes this even better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to your point, Adam, and we hope, like, we're all 3 of us, just for context, not that we should have to state the obvious on this show, we want whatever quarterback is on the field to succeed. We want them to play the best game ever every week. If Sam Darnold has a top 15, like top 16, first half of the league quarterback year, that's a definite win for the Vikings. But that doesn't matter. And I say this in the best way possible. It doesn't matter what kind of season he has. It doesn't affect what J.J. McCarthy does because that is their investment. That is their baby. This is a top 10 quarterback pick. The Vikings are not going to unhitch their wagon based on Sam Darnold's success and or failures here. And I want that to be a part of what I was saying too. If he's great, which I hope that he is, he'll get a chance somewhere else and they can move off of him, find a capable backup, or keep whatever they have on the roster if that's where it is. And then the next season, hey, thank you for that. We appreciate you, whatever. But their eggs are in the J.J. McCarthy basket. If Sam Darnold is winning, you roll with it. And I'm going to be a Debbie Downer. I'm sorry. I think the NFC North is going to be the hardest division this year. I think Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze and Keenan Allen and all those upgrades significantly improved the Bears team. Green Bay won a playoff game last year. Detroit won 2 and almost went to the Super Bowl. As it sits right now, we're competing for last place in this division until I see a reason why we should be higher up. That's okay because I think this team is very good. But we're not winning the Super Bowl this year. I would put every bit of all of my money for the rest of the year. We're just not. We're not there yet. We're not in that Super Bowl window like Cincy was or the Ravens are now or maybe the Bills are leaving. You don't have to rush J.J. McCarthy out there right now. That's my whole point. I don't want to hold him forever. You don't have to Jordan Love him for 3 years, but you don't have to start him this year. That's why Sam Darnold is here.
I will say this. I mean, you drafted the kid. When he's ready, you play him. You can't be afraid to not play him because you arbitrarily set some kind of deadline. Oh, you can't play him in the first year, or Sam Darnold had a good year, so that means you got to keep rolling with him because we're afraid to make any kind of change. Like, I don't think you want to go down that route, and I don't think they will. And my second point that I wanted to make is whomever the Vikings have at quarterback, they do have a bit of a cheat code. I don't know if you guys know this, but on offense, they have a really good wide receiver. His name is Justin Jefferson, and you can throw a 10-yard slant, and he's going to turn it into like a 45-yard touchdown. So, he's going to make whoever is out there look pretty darn good. You also have T.J. Hawkinson.
Minnesota has 2 first-round picks at receiver. They got a first-rounder at tight end. I mean, They got talent all over the place, and don't knock Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones could be a big beneficiary if J.J. McCarthy gets in the game.
I was just
Aaron
going to
Jones
say,
has also shown his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield on a regular basis.
I was just going to say,
had in a while.
He's had some damn good games against the Vikings as a Packer. And I'd like to share what I put in the chat. I won't bring the meme up because I don't have it available because I'm a terrible producer on this show. But guess what? NFC running back last year had 5 yards or more per carry. Only one of them.
Alexander Madison.
It was not him. Oh, you set me up for failure on that one. I don't want to talk badly about him. Good luck in Las Vegas.
So we had considered waiting another day to do the show, just have the schedules out and go like, what was it, 8 p.m. tomorrow they're coming out or something like that?
I don't want to wait till Thursday and basically wait 2 entire weeks to talk about
mock schedule.
Yeah, so far Minnesota, there's not a lot to know about Minnesota's schedule so far. I think the only thing we know so far is that there's going to be a game in London, and they don't play the Packers in week 1. I think that's all we know, right?
Hello, Scott. Yes, that is correct. That's about all we know. Fun fact, just because I thought you'd find this interesting. Rich Eisen, big fan. I'm shifting away from Uncle Colin Cowherd to Rich Eisen. I watch a lot of every day.
Good choice.
Yeah, he's on the NFL Network, I guess, team, and he had to sign an NDA, and part of it he read on the air. It was like, you cannot take a picture of this and send it to anyone. You cannot forward it to your own email. If you forward this to any email, it has to be cleared. You cannot write this schedule down on a napkin and then take a photo of it and leave it somewhere. This is pertinent information from the NFL, so they are taking this pretty seriously. There have been a couple of leaks. I think the first game of the season, the Chiefs are hosting the Ravens, and then they also host the Bengals week 2. How the hell they got 2 home games in a row hosting these opponents is kind of annoying, but hey, they're the Chiefs and they can cater to them. That's fine. But,
all right, so we got the season, the league openers on Thursday night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Friday we got that game in Brazil with Green Bay and Philly. So
that's right. I forgot about that.
Week 1, we're going to have quite a bit of football to watch.
Who else too? Did I read that week 1 the Jets are going to San Francisco, much like Monday night, and so they're going to be on Monday Night
I hope
Football
your
game.
Achilles is okay. Here's the 49ers.
So I think it doesn't really matter the length of. I mean, obviously, if you're playing outside, it depends. Like if
legs matters.
If you play outside in Green Bay in January, that's going to suck. Hopefully, that's not the case. But looking at the Vikings schedule right now, I don't really care about per se what week we play what team. I looked at their schedule at a first glance, and it's just difficult all the way around based on what happened last year.
Here's my opinion that I have on the whole schedule thing anymore. I care when we have the bye week. I think that is important. I do not want an early bye week. I want that late season bye week. I really do think is important. Otherwise, the media, us included, we do this every year where you sit down and you look at the schedule and you break it down and you go, holy shit, look at this stretch and this stretch and this is hard and this is easy. And then guess what? You start playing it and it doesn't. I don't know how much it really
Are there
matters.
any things coming up that you really don't want? Like, I hate watching the Vikings on Thanksgiving and Christmas. No, thank you.
I'm fine with that because those are guaranteed days I'm off at work. So yeah, give me all the holiday games. I'll
tell you what I do love, Adam. I know we have a game, and I don't know if one of these home games will offset that's in London. We don't know who we're playing in London, if it's going to be an away or a home. But I do like that now that you have a schedule where every year you're either going to have one extra home or one extra away game. For this season, as it sits right now, the day before the schedule release, they do have one more home game than away, which I love. I'm looking at them now. So they play the NFC West. So they play the Rams, Seahawks, the Niners, and the Cardinals. They also play the AFC South, which is a tough division too. They're not really slouches anymore. We got the revenge game against Kirk Cousins at home in Minnesota, which is going to be fun.
If he's starting, it could be Michael Penix.
Shit. That would be hilarious if that's what it really came down to. Maybe if the Achilles isn't healed all the way, but I don't see
Did
that
you guys see
being.
the crazy thing that I posted on the Viking Age a couple days ago about how there's analysts and fan sites in Atlanta that are already trying to figure out when they can get out of Kirk Cousins' contract?
I get it.
He hasn't even taken the field yet.
It's crazy the speculation that happens now, and it's only going to get worse as the years go on and social media grows and there's nothing to talk about.
But also, let's be honest here now. With what the Falcons signed Kirk Cousins to, that looks like nothing compared to what Jared Goff got.
Yeah.
You know what, too? I'm not going to – I don't know if you're going that direction, Adam, but I know a lot of people online, especially these Vikings groups I'm in, they're slandering Jared Goff. And I just want to say this is the team and quarterback that swept our team that we loved so much last year and went to a Super Bowl before and was one game away from going to another Super Bowl. You can't talk shit about them.
To me, Goff doesn't have a large enough sample size to warrant that kind of a contract. I know that he's doing good things in Detroit, and he's been good for a year and a half now, but he has not shown enough consistency that I'd be willing to invest that kind of money in him. Now, am I saying he's going to fail or something like that? No. He might have figured it out in Detroit and had, a great offensive line and good weapons around him, and maybe they've got it figured out. But I am still not in the Jared Goff believer camp.
I like it because he's their guy. And that has to count for something. Like he's their guy. He fits with that team and that coach. And
when
so
Detroit made that trade, it seemed like they were just taking that to take on get the draft picks and clear out a little bit of cap space.
And he looked like a stopgap, right, Adam? He looked like
right.
That's exactly the way I viewed it.
I think we all did, but to counter it and to support Jared Goff is okay. He went to a Super Bowl with the Rams. They lost, but he went there. You saw you can see the talent that he has for being a number one pick.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that on the field, right? I saw it today, which is hilarious because you guys know I don't count wins as a quarterback stat. I hate that. But they decided to put up, since the trade of Matt Stafford and Jared Goff, they decided to put up a bunch of stats, and they are damn near identical. I mean, the touchdowns, the yards, I think it's on Bleacher Report. I have to look it up. But obviously, the Rams won a Super Bowl, and they cashed in. Now, to my chagrin, I was kind of surprised they're still competitive with not having that kind of capital.
We'll see without Aaron Donald.
Well, yeah, now he's going to be gone. That's going to be super hard. But, nailing picks like Puka Nacua, and then I forget I think it was one of their corners they got. Just absolutely nailing those picks, like mid-round guys that are day one starters on your team. That's the way you got to draft. But to the point for Jared Goff, I think what happened in Detroit is they've been building and been drafting well. I think the coach finally figured out the way to get the team to rally and actually do what he wanted them to do. Maybe it was a year too late, but it clicked for him last year. When you tell me they're going to play, it's going to be the revenge game where Matt Stafford and the Rams play the Lions, I picked the Lions, and I was wrong. When they played the Bucs, I'm like, damn, the Bucs just shut out the Eagles. I kind of like Baker Mayfield and the grit and the attitude. They might be able to beat the Lions. Had they not blown that lead in the second half, the Lions would have been in the Super Bowl last year. And I understand it was week one and the preseason is not a thing anymore, whatever. Let's not forget that the Lions went into Kansas City week one and beat the Chiefs. I'm not saying they would have had a better game than the Niners.
I mean, Kansas City wasn't at full strength either, but I mean, what can you do?
I understand. I'm just saying that would have – I think we don't give Detroit enough credit for the season they had. But to agree with you in a way, Adam, that's 1 year. How many times have we seen a team do great like the Vikings in 2017 and then they completely miss the playoffs the next year? I think the thing that annoys me the most about Detroit, not even Jared Goff in general, is we're already penciling them in to go back to the NFC Championship game. Have we learned nothing from how the NFL works every year? There's 8 playoff teams that change every year. That's what the whole draft is
we got to think, okay, well, what is it about Detroit that has us believing? Is it Jared Goff? Is Jared Goff what has you believing? I would say all three of us got to be Dan Campbell.
Yeah,
I honestly, it's not even for me, Dan Campbell. I think it's a three-headed monster of, I believe in Jared Goff a little bit. I like Dan Campbell a lot. I like the way he coaches. That general manager is killing it. They're picking up stars left and right. They're signing guys. They're
whatever
signing
they got
free
working on
agents.
scouting, they're kicking butt.
Yeah, that's what I would say. My hat would probably lean out of the three of those slightly more towards the GM, but it's a formula that works. And just to go off on a little tangent, there is, a lot of teams try this formula where they get a gritty coach and they get like a veteran quarterback guy, and they can't really figure it out. They're missing a piece. I think Detroit might have figured it out because they've not only got those two guys, but man, they've drafted very well.
And you know what? You know what helps Detroit that we're not talking about, and it helps Jared Goff quite a bit? Dude, they invested in their offensive line.
Every year for like 3 years.
Yeah, they lost a big guy on the offensive line. What'd they do? They went out and they got a guy they thought might be able to replace him snap for snap, and it's like, okay.
And I have to give them credit too. We laughed at this pick last year. Jahmyr Gibbs is really good. He's really good. And
but Detroit is entering a part now where the guys that are major contributors are getting paid. And it's going to be tough for them down the road with so many young guys that are becoming stars in this league and are going to get massive paychecks. Being able to distribute that wealth among a roster that has a lot of talent is going to be tough.
Yeah, and to bring this kind of back to the Vikings a little bit too, using Detroit as a mold for how to build a winning team. Boy, that's not a phrase I thought I would have ever said before.
Well,
but you really got to
like 30 years, so I mean,
yeah. But I will give them some credit here. But I do think the Vikings, like you said, Adam, they're spending money on some skill positions, some skill players out there on offense and defense. But I do want to see them look at that offensive line and not just be complacent at center. I think that that's a position that they need to look at, and they need to be aggressive and looking to upgrade and get better at the center position. The guard spots are still an area that I think you need to maybe look towards in the future, kind of upgrading. It's an area that you need to continually be investing in because you're going to want to keep JJ McCarthy upright and healthy and on the field. And there's no downside to investing in your offensive line. And I know it's not flashy. It's not fun when you draft a center in the first round.
I'd be pumped for that.
But I would be pumped for that too.
Well, in history here, Minnesota's invested a lot at center and has not seen the kind of return that they were really hoping for. They've got a guy now that's on a decently, reasonably priced contract, and he's playing decent football, but is decent good enough, or do you fall into this trap of good enough?
Yeah, see, that's where I was going, where it's like, I don't think you don't want to fall into that trap. Where it's like, we know he's okay, but man, you give me that Pro Bowl center out there.
I think it's coming too, because you got to think this is draft number 3 for Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell. You know what they haven't went top heavy on at all? The offensive line.
Yeah.
I think it's time. I think next year would be the year where they're going to have to look at that, because Father Time will sneak up. We're going to have to pay Christian Darrisaw. You want to keep Brian O'Neill around while he's still in his prime? Cool. All of those guard positions.
Yeah, how long's Brian O'Neill got left in him?
Yeah, I mean that's a fair thing to look at. How long will he be here? But then you have the interior line, both guards in the center spot. They haven't went. I mean, I have to look at their draft, but I don't think they've spent outside of Ed Ingram top 3 or a third round is the highest they've done for one of those. That's it. So that's got to be an emphasis point at some point. And I know the Vikings are smart enough and do this way more in depth than we do. They've got to have that on a board somewhere. It's like, hey, we haven't put any first or second round talent in this position group yet. We should probably look at that. But
which is why on every Minnesota Vikings post on social media, people are like, bring back Dalton Reisner.
Just like what Scott says here in the chat.
You guys signed Reisner yet?
Bully them into re-signing him. I'm okay with it. I like your point, Kyle. You gotta protect your quarterback, and it's kind of what happened with LA with Michigan, former Michigan coach, now back in the NFL again, Jim Harbaugh. Everybody said, "Oh, they could go get Malik Neighbors or whomever." It's like, yeah, you could, or you could protect that huge investment in Justin Herbert and build up that line and play pretty much San Francisco and Michigan football, like Jim Harbaugh wants to do.
Speaking
I
of
didn't hate
Jim
that.
Harbaugh, do you guys believe the conspiracy theory that he refused to trade with the Minnesota Vikings in the last draft that we just had because the Vikings didn't hire him a couple years ago?
I don't think he cares.
I haven't heard that at all.
Yeah, I've heard that floating around a little bit on
I
social
don't think
media.
he cares.
I think that's a fun thing to say out loud, but that's not how NFL teams are run. I mean, shit. You've seen the Vikings willing to trade with teams within their own division, and like if you're willing to, I can't see him seriously turning down a trade offer from the Vikings because they didn't hire him a couple years ago.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room now for a second, because I know that this has kind of quieted down lately, but it shouldn't. Do you guys have a deadline on when you need a Justin Jefferson extension done?
When's week 1?
September 11th that week.
Yeah, so let's get it done a little bit before then. Otherwise, I'm not concerned about it.
After July 31st.
He can sit out.
Because I'm like you right now, I'm not worried about it, but if it
about
keeps going, I might start getting a little worried.
He can sit out voluntary.
And with all these wide
portions.
receiver contracts coming out, it should be done sooner rather than later because these contracts are getting out of hand.
They
I
are
think I
getting
just
crazy.
saw Antoine Winfield Jr. got over $20 million a year.
Oh yeah, shout out to him. We were all big advocates of if he signs with Minnesota, we would definitely be stoked about it. I don't know. I don't think we're gonna re-sign our safety.
And Amon
for
Ron
that.
St. Brown got a gigantic contract.
Right? He was the highest paid receiver for like 10 minutes. And then who else got one after him? Somebody else got one that was slightly more, which is good on Detroit for doing that early. That's another reason why I like Detroit's management. They're like, hey, we're going to get ahead of this shit now so we don't have to pay more for waiting.
But when that St. Brown contract came out, people were like, wow, massive overpay. Then out comes more contracts that are more. And it's like, no, we're just getting ahead of what's coming.
Right, and that does drive up the price for Justin Jefferson, no matter what the price was going to be.
Because
now,
if it was 30 or 31, now we're talking 33, 35.
I expect every bit of 35 to be the floor of what this is for him, which is insane. It is a high number for a receiver. I'm going to put my 2 cents out there. I don't want it. I don't like paying a receiver that much because I just don't know how much that's going to change to get you to a Super Bowl. But I'm going to say this. I am not on the team to be like, we should trade Justin Jefferson. The whole point of the freaking draft is to find a guy like Justin Jefferson. So you're just going to not pay him so you hope you get it right again? Like, it's like throwing a dart at a board and hitting a bullseye and taking it back like, let me see if I can do that again. It's like, no, count that. Keep that on your score.
There was a lot of really dumb luck that happened for the Minnesota Vikings to move on from Stephon Diggs and end up with Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
You are not doing that a third time
No.
and moving on from Justin Jefferson.
Even with
to
getting Jordan
whomever.
Addison.
And I was just going to say, we're discounting Jordan Addison here a little bit too, who looks like a really good prospect for the Vikings.
Well, it's funny because the Chargers ended up taking Quentin Johnson, the big body guy. And it's funny because that prototype of the physical traits is what you want. But I was also cool with Zay Flowers, who I think went right ahead of Jordan Addison. But looking at it now, Jordan Addison, after last year, I mean, he had 10 touchdowns and right at 1,000 yards. I mean, it's arguing between him or Zay Flowers, best receiver of the class so far. It's like, you're right, to your point, Kyle. You're not going to keep hitting that. It's going to fail at some point. So I laugh at that, but yeah, I don't like paying a wide receiver $35 million. That's quarterback money. I mean, Daniel Jones.
It used to be quarterback money.
You're right. You're 100% right, Adam. I don't like Daniel Jones for albeit what he is, but he's making $40 million a year. Now, the whole caveat to it is if you're going to pay Justin Jefferson that kind of money, right freaking now is the time to do it. Because J.J. McCarthy is going to be on a rookie deal. You can keep Justin Jefferson locked up through his first, big boy contract and his prime. And you have this window and this nucleus of rookie quarterback, superstar wide receiver, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to follow the point. I'm going to say it again. And I just said it 2 minutes ago. you don't get rid of a guy when the whole point of the draft is to find literally that guy. He is the best wide receiver in the NFL.
All right, let's
You
talk
can't
about
get rid
another
of
thing
him.
that people don't really want to talk about right now, and that is that Minnesota Vikings have a out on the contract of Harrison Smith after this year. And they can get him out and not end up paying him a ton of money to have down the road. And I believe they can cut ties with him for $9 million dead cap after this year, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think this is the last ride for Harrison.
We've been
Yeah,
saying
this
this
has
for a
gotta be
couple. We've been saying this for a couple of years now, but I really feel like he's going to retire after this offseason.
What?
And he's a strong candidate for Vikings Ring of Honor, if not more.
Definitely.
Absolutely, at a minimum, should be in the Vikings Ring of Honor. This is such a good segue. I don't want to get off the Harrison Smith train. If you have anything else, both of you want to talk about, I'm happy that he's back. It's a good problem to have, but it is going to be a great segue into my next conversation.
But do you feel that Harrison Smith being in Minnesota kind of stifles the growth of the other defensive backs in Minnesota? Because right now we got Cameron Bynum, who's been playing at a high level. They took Josh Metellus and they moved him to – they created a new position to get him on the field.
Yeah.
And now we got other safeties that are trying to make their way up, Theo Jackson, other guys that just kind of want to do their thing. And they don't have the opportunity because Harrison Smith is there and holding that down. Now, Harrison Smith is not getting paid a lot to be this year, but when the Vikings are ready to move on from Harrison Smith, do you feel like there's a guy that can step up and take that role?
No, and that kind of leads to the segue that I have, because I believe I saw it on the Viking Age's Facebook page. Lewis Cine might not be on the team this year. So, I don't know what the hell they're going to do. And, man, we're only supposed to judge these players 3 seasons after they get drafted, but it is such an economic major bust. Oh,
we all love Harrison Smith, and we should. He's been great for the team for many, many years. But that's the problem, is that he is getting older, and the defense is trying to move away from the more expensive veterans, and he's not quite a fit for the roster anymore, even though we do love him and appreciate everything he's done. It's getting to be that time.
Brian Flores must be a big fan of his too, to ask him to.
Yeah, because you've seen him take other veterans that people love and have moved right on from them.
Yeah.
What was the thing I think guys the other day? I'm gonna try to find it while I filibuster here, but this is the first time since whatever year. Here it is. This will be the first season since 2015 the Vikings have had the same coach, OC, and DC for 2 consecutive years.
So do you try to put Metellus back at safety if Harrison Smith leaves, or do you use a top draft pick on a safety?
Well, they should have used a top draft pick on Kyle Hamilton because he looks fantastic for the Ravens. So that's annoying. I don't know if I think at this
fans
point,
are going to riot if you draft another safety high again.
But here's the point, Kyle. Should they riot or because the whole fan base on Twitter, half of it. I mean, shit, I'm like halfway there now. Should we riot? Because everybody wants Lewis Cine gone, and they've called him a bust since he got injured his first year. So it's like, what do you want us to do? We have to fill the spot. Well, here's the better question. Would you rather the Vikings next year in the first 2 rounds, obviously we were talking about addressing the offensive line. So let's say we just have that crystal ball and say, hey, I don't know what round and what position. I just know that with the first 2 picks they have next year, they're going safety and they're going interior O-line. Would you be upset if they drafted a safety in the first 2 rounds next year, or would you rather them keep going on the rookie deal of Lewis Cine and finally in year 4 maybe see if there's something there?
There is no part of me that believes Lewis Cine is going to turn this around. Not in Minnesota. I don't.
I feel bad for Minnesota because the people that were there when Lewis Cine got drafted had a clear vision for him.
Yes.
But when the new ownership and coaches took over, I don't believe they shared that vision. So now they're left with a guy that they had a plan for, but because of the changes, there is no plan anymore.
I mean, if I recall it right, that's their first pick in this regime, and it's not a good one. I mean, they've had some good ones since, especially this year. I like that they've progressively gotten better, but Yeah, that's the question, Kyle. Adam, is do you wait 4 years to finally see if you have something there? Because ultimately, what if he breaks out, he has a good year, like, oh shit, he looks like a first round safety. We can use the 5th-year option and we don't have to worry about drafting. But has it soured so much that you're like, no, man, your time has passed. Like we gotta cut.
Well, I think a better question is Minnesota Vikings management ready to finally admit that they made a mistake with seeing and release him? Because I think that's what it's going to take for people to be like, okay, they know they messed up here. Let's talk about the drafting for a second, though, because I feel like the last 2 Viking drafts have not been bad. That first one, I know we've talked about why that could be messed up, but I feel like the last 2 have been pretty solid.
If you're willing to read between the lines and listen to everything that Kwesi says in his press conferences, he has hinted that first draft was very difficult for him because he came in and the ball was already rolling. The process was already started on that draft class. And so for him to come in and implement his system with his scouts on that short of a notice was harder than he anticipated.
Yeah.
So he's kind of low key admitted that they fucked up on that first draft, and I don't think that that's a thing that you really ever come out and say in a press conference. But
especially when you're a GM and it's a first rounder, huh?
Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow. But when they move on from Scene sooner rather than later, I mean, that will be their admission that, hey, we didn't do so good. And I do believe, like you said, Adam, these last 2 drafts have been pretty good for Minnesota.
And let's be honest here, Scene does not need to be taking a spot on the 53 to be inactive at a regular basis.
No.
I don't think a team's even going to poach him if you try to put him on the practice squad at this point.
Maybe they'll take a chance there, but I think that's the only swing. It's very minimal. It sucks for him because.
But is it admitting failure too if you put your first round safety on the practice squad? You know, at what point does this look like really bad for the Vikings?
I think it already looks really bad.
Looking real bad for Scene. Because right now everyone wants to say,
you can't even get special teams snaps. You know, like that's the worst
and
part.
I feel bad for him because he didn't help him either, and I don't care.
Then he came back and got injured again.
Yeah, so I don't blame him 100%. There's a chance that he just might never be physically where he was before.
Justin believes it. Someone will pick him up if we cut. I think they'd take a flyer on him, but yeah, especially
but that flyer will come based on potential, not any sort of 100%. Actual work that he does on the field, which is
because outside of this Michigan year and this Michigan team, like Georgia was and they kind of probably should have been in the playoff. Georgia is the standard, the new shifting towards being a new Alabama. We're like, oh shit, we won 2 in a row. We might have a dynasty here. He was on the last Georgia team that won a national championship. So you're like, oh, cool. Or maybe it was that first year out of the 2 back-to-back. I think it is because we're going into year 3 now. But yeah, he was on a national championship Georgia team. Like he is like certified D1 SEC DB. That's a great title to have.
But I don't even know. I don't even know how hard. Like you overthink it when you try to create a roster spot for him. Like you can't even really move him around. If he was if he was a corner, you could make the argument, corner, move him to safety. Well, you're sure as shit not putting Lewis Scene as a corner.
No.
And I don't think you can convert him to a linebacker.
No, I don't think he has the size for that.
Yeah, he don't have the size to go to linebacker, so I don't know what else. What do you do with him? I don't know what you do with him.
You got to find a place where he contributes, and right now, that's not on defense and it's not on special teams, and I don't want to see him on offense by any means. So,
hey, you know what? Maybe he's the running back we didn't know we needed.
Put him at fullback.
There he is. That's a CJ Ham replacement.
But yeah, I'd love to see Scene be able to contribute, but as it looks right now, I don't think there's any real plan for him in place. He's going to have to come into training camp and earn his way onto the roster like a lot of these other guys that are first-time Vikings and weren't as highly touted as picks.
Yeah, eventually, I think at some point for these shows after this season is done, because they'll have 3 full years of drafts and seasons to talk about. We can look at putting it right back. Hell yeah. We can sit down and break down like, hey, this was a failure, this was a good pick, this was a sneaky good one, whatever. I think the writing's on the wall, and I think I saw it on the Viking Age, at least their Facebook page. It's like, hey, who's more likely to keep a roster spot, Andrew Booth or Lewis Cine? I was like, this isn't even a question.
Andrew Booth.
Andrew Booth, 100%. I don't see a scenario where Lewis Cine makes the roster because he was inactive though pretty much his whole career outside of getting injured. He couldn't find his way to special teams, and it sucks because injury is almost unfair because it's such a violent sport, but. Yeah, once that injury happened, everything just set back, and then it was, they had that phrase, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That injury set him back about 5 steps, and then his feet are just, sludging through the mud at this point. I just never could pick up from there. I hope that he finds success and another home. I think he'll get another chance with another team.
He will bounce around the league.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Just to bring up a random Viking, isn't it crazy, though? We had Anthony Harris on the team who had statistically one of the best years at safety that season, and he was undrafted. And then we go out and take a national champion safety, and it's like he can't even play special teams. Isn't it crazy the NFL is weird like that?
Yeah,
Isn't that weird?
I never thought Bynum was going to evolve into the player he's been. He's been real good.
100%. I didn't know that Josh Metellus was going to have such a big impact.
I've always been a fan, but when he came out and they gave him that new position, it's a completely different guy.
That marriage with him and fitting the scheme with that Flores is doing, man, that unlocked he leveled up.
And with how fast that happened, I mean, Flores arrived and it was within a matter of a couple of days where he's like, okay, Metellus gets this big extension. People are like, what?
Adam, you know what it was? That was the same reaction we all had when they were like, Daniil Hunter got an extension, right? That 3rd round DN, whatever.
They see these guys, they know.
That was what everyone outside of Minnesota thought when Daniil Hunter got that first contract extension.
Correct.
I remember a lot of Vikings fans. We talked about it on this show. We were pretty pumped for Daniil Hunter.
We knew. I laughed because, with the Metellus thing, I wasn't going to fight management and be like, what are you doing? I'm sure it'll work out. Hey, at least we have this position locked up because right now one of the other safeties isn't on the field. Cool. Didn't know he was going to have the season he was going to have. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, I saw that on the Viking Age and I was like, I know what you're trying to do here, but I think this is pretty lopsided and it's unfair. I want to say that if this ever entered Lewis Cine's ears and you had to hear this, we don't have any negative will towards.
No, we're rooting for Cine to succeed. I want him to come out and have a great year this year and be ready to take over next year. That's what I want.
Yeah,
I hated it because I watched his film from Georgia and he's a thumper, man. Straight line speed. It's like a freaking linebacker. And I'm like, this is cool. This is great.
I know. I thought for sure that would be his role with the Vikings. You get him on the field and you can use him.
Yeah, box safety up there doing his thing. That's what I thought.
Yeah, blitz packages, get after the quarterback, get some pressures out there. And you know how much Brian Flores likes to blitz the quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
So the fact that he hasn't found a way to get...
Does Brian Flores blitz the quarterback?
A little bit. So the fact that he hasn't found a way to get Lewis Cine on the field doing that, that's not a good sign.
It made me think of that fucking Carolina game I went to last year. I just couldn't believe, first of all, I'm watching Bryce Young. I'm like, that is a middle school student playing professional football.
Stop.
These 7 foot tall men in front of him. He's so small compared to the offensive lineman. But watching Flores, literally every other play, it's blitz. You're like, oh shit. I was like, he really does. He doesn't care. He's just going to blitz all day, all game.
I love it.
It was crazy to watch. But
do you guys see the Bleacher Report ranked all the NFL defenses from 1 to 23, and Minnesota was number 18? I thought that was a little bit better than I thought, especially with them being ranked better than teams like the Eagles and the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, okay.
We got to take last year and look at the totality of it all. They started out a little slow, which we expected because the preseason is what it is, and they need to basically have to have warm-up games, hope you win them at the beginning of the season. They kind of fizzled out at the end. I think everybody was a little burnt out. And the season, I'm sure the attitude in the locker room was we don't have Kirk, so it's probably a little fizzled. But, man, there was a pocket of about 8 games in the middle where that defense was on fucking fire.
But we also
And
got to know that now Brian Flores had an opportunity to not only look at the draft and free agency, but get more of his guys in there.
Yes. I'm very, very, very excited. I found like a cheap knockoff app where I can get these jerseys. And I'm not going to buy a JJ McCarthy jersey. I can't do it because I'm just spiteful. But I am real close to buying a Dallas Turner jersey. I'm so pumped to see what Brian Flores does with him. Yes. I think this sneaky, and I'm being biased here, but that sneaky addition of Grenard and Van Ginkel. And what's the other guy we got from Houston? The other linebacker?
Oh, well, the other one's inside linebacker.
Got him, and then you're adding Dallas Turner. Like that whole pass rushing group, whatever position you want to label them as, those 4 players, dude, I'm beyond pumped. I think exactly what Quessie's trying to do with value signings and like, okay, this might be B+ guys or B rated players, but they can get the job done. They're closer to your A- guys than you believe and think. He signed like 3 of them and then drafted. I cannot believe they got him at what, pick 15 or 17 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
We talked about that on
17.
the show. He had like a 3% chance of being that far down. It's like, how did we get him?
And we all saw Kevin O'Connell's really face.
He looked like, what's that little kid that was, I think it was in like the Barney stuff back in like the 90s or something. He was like,
imagination.
That's crazy. Yes. He had that same look. But yeah, I'm very pumped for the defense. And albeit I think Brian Flores should get a head coaching shot again. I don't think it's coming as quickly as he probably wants. If he can stay here for 3 seasons, I count that as a total win.
I was a bit surprised that Flores didn't get an interview this offseason. I didn't think he was going to get hired somewhere, but I was surprised he didn't get an interview.
I am going to be selfish. I hope that he sticks around for a long time in Minnesota, but I hope it's his own choice. Like, I don't want to see him blackballed out of the league, obviously. But I hope that he just really likes it here and wants to build something special with Kevin O'Connell, because it would be nice to have those two. They seem to work together really well. They seem to respect one another. Kevin O'Connell really seems to let him, hey, you run the defense, I'll run the offense. We'll work together and we'll build a Vikings team together. And I would love to see him have a good tenure here in Minnesota.
To piggyback on that too, like I don't remember what game it was. I wasn't there. I went to 2 of them last year, and I don't believe it was one of the ones I was at. We talked about it on the show. But he has head coaching experience with a really stout Miami team that Mike, whatever his name is, kind of took over. He laid the foundation for a really good team, even though he didn't like Tua. Yeah, Mike McDaniel, even though he didn't really like Tua, which I kind of don't either. But hilariously enough, there was one point at one of those games, you see Brian Flores screaming at Kevin O'Connell, take the timeout. Like, when you have that experience and a guy that comes from New England and all these, like, great, like, backgrounds of these coaches, I was like, oh, that kind of rules. He's been in this position. He's worn this hat before of head coach. And if Kevin O'Connell is like, in the moment or maybe distracted or something, to have that person that has the balls to be like, hey, you should take a timeout here. Kevin O'Connell's not going to get offended at him for saying that. He's like, oh, no shit. He literally was a head coach like 2 years ago.
What do you think?
Narrative I haven't heard in a while is the whole, there's a disconnect between Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. I haven't heard that one in a while. But that was out there strong for a bit.
Oh, it's so stupid.
There's a schism in the locker room going back to the Brad Childress era. Remember that? The schism between, who was that? Was it Childress and Favre? Or I don't remember.
There's a schism, and then right after that, we have the great paperweight story, or the dumbbell story, where we're throwing weights. We're throwing weights at the Leslie Frazier.
Was that Percy Harvin?
Yeah, throwing a fucking weight at the head coach. Oh,
was it Leslie or was it Brad Childress?
It was Leslie Frazier, and I don't understand, like, of all the coaches, I thought he was a player's coach.
I would understand throwing literally anything at Brad Childress. That's acceptable. But by all accounts,
Brett Favre didn't fight.
By all accounts, Leslie Frazier is an awesome human being and a nice guy, and I don't get why you would ever be mad at him like that.
Going back to this era, I just love this story. Like, it's kind of like when I meet up with my military guys and we talk about all the wild, crazy shit we got to do or the fun shenanigans we got into. I love that clip of Favre in the Metrodome. I don't know if it was a quarterback's coach. It's some coach talking to him, and he's like, man, being an offensive coordinator is hard. And Brett Favre just looks at him and goes, "Try playing quarterback."
That was that was our offensive coordinator, Daryl Bevel. I remember that clip. Yeah, that was him talking to Daryl Bevel. My favorite Favre story. I don't know how we get on this shit this late in the show, but just the disrespect that Favre had for Brad Childress when Chili came up to him on the sidelines and was like, "That wasn't the play call," and he was like, "Yeah, I changed it. I threw it deep to Sidney Rice." He's just like, "Yeah, I changed it. What are you gonna do?"
It's called it. Yeah. Hey, coach. It's called an audible. Crazy how that works. Let the old man spin the ball, dude. That's so funny.
Favre.
Yeah, Brett Favre having hair like mine, just completely silver, and he's like, "Yeah, you should try playing quarterback. The shit's hard too."
I love that 09 team.
What? I think it was an Adrian play. I don't think it was the Greg Lewis play, but it was something where. Yes, I am wearing a Creed shirt. Thank you very much, Human Clay. Shout out to that record. I love Creed. Always have. I love that they're having a resurgence. But I think it was one of his offensive linemen. Maybe it's an Adrian Peterson or a Percy Harvin play, and they end up scoring like a crazy touchdown. And they were like, "Did you see that?" He's like, "Oh no, yeah, I was there. I threw it to him."
He was like, "I threw it. I knew that was the quote you were going for. Did you see it? See it? I threw it."
He's like, "Yeah, I had a good seat." God, for how much of a piece of shit he is off the field, he sure was entertaining as a quarterback, man. Are we
that 09 team, man, that was a fun season.
09 and
now
99,
we did have some
98.
transactions to talk about too. The Vikings released Joejuan Williams, I believe. Is his last name,
Williams.
Right? Yep.
Yeah.
And they signed James
Hetfield.
His last name. What's
James
that?
Lynch.
Yeah, James Lynch back. And I believe earlier this week they signed a tight end. I don't have the name with me. I don't know if you guys are keeping up on that.
I did see the James Lynch re-signing and the Joejuan Williams release. I too do not know the name of this tight end because we are super professional here. But that's cool. I like the bringing back of James Lynch. I think he was injured last year, correct?
Yeah.
So I love any chance that we get to keep the big boys on either side of the line. So that's cool.
But otherwise, there haven't been a lot of Vikings news to break down. Tomorrow, we're going to have a little bit of schedule news. Did you guys, that first year, I watched the schedule release show on TV. And now I just realized if I go on Twitter like 5 minutes before that show starts, I can get it all anyway.
I imagine at some point around brunch to lunchtime, it's going to get out. It's going to get leaked somewhere, and you're going to figure out what it is. You just have to wait to see if it's real or not, but it's going to get out, and whatever.
I will just wait for Adam Carlson to post it on the VikingAge.com, and I will check out the Viking schedule there.
Have you been checking out all the mock schedules that have been going on?
I have not.
I did not know that was a thing until a couple days ago.
Yeah, I will never be so bored that I will sit down and read a mock schedule.
What do you think we play week 1?
Mock draft? Okay, I get it. I have fun with that. Mock schedule? No.
It's hard pressed for some views and some clicks on that one.
And I can't sit and watch an hour release show where they're just like, okay, here comes week 1. This is going on. But are you guys still like, now that Kirk Cousins is no longer here, are we still afraid of primetime games?
I think that narrative should have been laid to rest, especially two times. You don't get much more primetime with eyeballs on you than the playoffs, and that 2019 wild card win that we should not have won against the Saints. That's a pretty big primetime win. And then I don't know, the most comebacks and the most single-digit wins in a season. I think that's kind of a big deal. But
I notice you're not answering the question.
I don't know. I don't have an answer. It's not that I'm avoiding it. I don't know. I didn't really care about that narrative because
I'm still a little afraid of primetime games.
You know what? You know what bothered me about that is that same shit where I'm like, I don't believe wins are a quarterback stat or whatever, because I've seen Kirk Cousins play in primetime where he has like 3 or 4 touchdowns, and the defense literally looks like middle school, like it's the little Giants out on the field. I'm like, you guys can't stop a nosebleed, dude. What are you doing? So I don't know. I'm not as afraid with bringing the whole crew back as far as coaches. I like the young talent that they have. I'm not excited about either one of these quarterbacks because I don't know that either one of them is going to be like MVP caliber, but I'm excited for the team. I think the NFC North is going to be very hard for a while.
Art West, do you have a real answer for us?
I don't have anything, man. I don't know.
I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. I don't want the Vikings to shit the bed in prime time. I'm not ready for that disappointment. This team right now is not ready for big spotlight games. Like, you give me the Sunday noon kickoff time where we can hide amongst all the other noon kickoff games, and I'm okay with that. There's still a little too much inexperience out there. I mean, shit. If you've got to start JJ McCarthy, I don't care how much success the kid had in college. You put him on Monday Night Football where everyone's watching, he's going to be nervous.
Yeah.
Like, he'll lie to you and say, no, I'm not. But yeah, he's going to be nervous to go out there.
The other thing I like about Vikings primetime games is that I live out of market, so they're on TV.
Nice.
Yeah, that's always nice too.
I'll put this up before we start plugging away, just because I want everybody to have the visual. But not slides. I would like to present the share screen.
Oh no!
So the future opponents coming up this year.
It's gonna be Creed. Nope.
So the home opponents, which I love. There's the revenge game here for Kirk Cousins. We don't know what week that'll be. That'll be fun. The reigning NFC champs come back to Minnesota. Probably the best game the Vikings played last year against the Niners. That was a crazy game. The Houston Texans are red hot. That'll be a fun game. The Colts will have Anthony Richardson back. That'll be fun.
The Cardinals
Arizona,
are coming.
They have a lot of good weapons. I would not discount them for being better than we think. And then this is always fun. Aaron Rodgers comes back to Minnesota with the New York Jets. Interesting.
And we got an automatic loss there to the Giants. So,
so this is fun. Seattle's always a tough place to play. Tennessee, not so much. That could be a fun one. The Rams have a great stadium. I've been there. It's great. I don't know what to think of the Jaguars. I don't know if I believe in them or not. And then there's Daniel Jones. So there's that. But this is what we're waiting on tomorrow. We didn't want to wait and do like 2 weeks and a day later to just go over like what day on the calendar it's coming. But these are the opponents.
Against Mayo Boy.
Mayo in the coffee. Ugh, so gross. So I guess we can do one before we sign off here. Which game do you think we're going to play in London? Who do you think we're going to play in London? Do we know that yet?
I think it's going to be a home game, so I'm going to say Arizona. It's my guess.
Home game. I'm going to say maybe either the Texans or the Colts. I'm going to go with either one of those. The Niners are too big to have that be a thing. I think they want to keep it in Minnesota for the Falcons. I don't know about the Jets. They're going to do.
I think they want a high-profile young player over there to kind of like build.
I think the Colts make sense.
The Colts or the Texans make sense. They have two really good young quarterbacks, and they're both pretty good teams. The Texans are
dude. I'm excited to see Anthony Richardson. I hope he stays healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a fun player. I know the Vikings wanted him. He's just a big body dude. Big Cam Newton type dude. Yeah. Put in the comments while we do our plugs at the end. Who do you think the Vikings are going to play in London? I'm going to go with the Colts or the Texans.
We're going to play the Falcons in October. The schedule gods like that. They like Kirk and Kirktober to come get that revenge game.
Okay. I hope we hang up 58 points on the Falcons. Fuck that guy. Thanks for your time here. You're the enemy now.
Thank you. Fuck you. Bye.
Yes.
I really thought the Falcons were going to take Dallas Turner at that draft.
They probably should have. They really should have.
We talked about it, Adam. I don't think maybe you were on the show that week, man. I don't know if you were at the one after.
I wasn't there for the live draft.
It's a stupid pick until it isn't. if Kirk Cousins goes out there and gets hurt again, it's the smartest thing you could do because kid's got an arm and he can play in
Or
the
if they
pocket.
move on from Kirk after 2 years, it's fine.
I think they probably will. I just think it's funny that it came out that he left Minnesota because he was under the assumption, hey, we're probably going to take a quarterback in the first round.
Right, and Minnesota was honest with them. They're like, hey, Kirk, we're going to look at a quarterback. And Kirk's like, well, maybe I could go play somewhere else. And they do it to him.
Well, he shouldn't be upset, though. As much as you'd want to know, you want to do that, it's like you got paid, bro. You've made $250 million in your life. I think you're going to be okay. It's going to be all right.
He can buy a lot of Pizza Ranch.
That's a lot of churches he can build across America.
The chicken place or the religious establishment?
Yes. Maybe it's
I've
both.
been to a church's chicken.
Yeah. I don't know if it's underwhelming.
But it's been a while since I've been to the other kind.
Yeah, church's chicken's a little underwhelming.
I ain't gonna disagree.
Yeah, I'll give it a solid meh. I'll put it to you this way: there was one about 2 miles from my apartment when I lived in El Paso, and I never went. So
it's fine.
I know what that means.
If someone said, "Hey, let's go to church," I'd be like, "Okay,
it's there." Yeah,
we can do that."
I'm just up here
I think
slandering
last show I
church's
said the same exact thing about Subway.
Yeah, we did.
Which, yeah, Subway's fine.
Subway's certainly a sandwich. All right, let's get out of here. Everybody go to the Viking Age, find Adam Carlson's articles, click on them, read them. He does good work.
So my pay scale changed over to Viking Age. I'm still getting paid per session. So if you could go over and click on one of my articles, that'd be amazing. I have the potential to make a nice paycheck this month. I'm off to a really good start. So if you could head over and click on an article or two, I'd really appreciate it.
You should. I'm going to find, here we go. Just because I like doing this and I have the option. I'm like a kid who just learned how to play a game. You learn how to play Snake on your mom's Nokia phone.
Recently over there, I did an article where I ranked the starting quarterbacks in the NFC North, and it was a lot easier than I think it probably should have been. Because I think we'd all put Jared Goff as number one, right?
Jared Goff is number one for what?
Quarterback in the NFC North.
Right now, absolutely.
And then Love second is what I had.
Correct.
And I had Caleb Williams as third just because he was like a higher draft pick and higher potential. And then I had the combination of McCarthy and Darnold as fourth because I just don't know what to expect.
So I don't know which one is sharing or not. I think it's the one where you wrote on May 13th. But if you click on Adam's name here,
yep,
you can go down. And I love this that it caters specifically to the articles that you have written. So if you are watching,
if you bookmark that page, it'll take you right to everything I've written.
So there you go. Go check out Adam's work here. It's very nice. And I would love for you to have a great month over there.
Yeah, I was really nervous for a little while because we changed up the format away from slideshows, which I thought was going to kill me financially. I didn't know how I was going to make things work, and then they sent me over an email with a new pay scale, and I had already been applying for jobs somewhere else, so it was like a little bit wild to me that they would work so hard to keep me, and it made me feel really appreciated, and I liked that.
I love that for you. Certainly on just the human aspect of I don't want you to have to struggle and all that, but I think you do good work over there, man. And just as a fan of, they don't employ me, so I can say whatever I want. I like the dynamic of the writers that you have, but I'm glad they got rid of the clicking through the slideshows. I find that to be very frustrating and annoying.
Well, what happened was that was hurting our search engine optimization. We weren't showing up in Google really much anymore. Mm-hmm. And now it's been like about 10 days there in this month that views were really bad because we just weren't showing up when people were searching on Google for Minnesota Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since then, we started showing up again now that we're doing like thicker one-page content, and it's been pretty nice.
I think it was a smart move, man.
I agree with you, Smith. If I click on an article and it's a slideshow, I'm immediately like, I ain't clicking through that shit.
And it's not a slight to Adam or the Viking Age at all. I think we've
No,
just
that's
been
just
so
like I don't
desensitized.
like that format.
I don't like the format, but I think we've just also been, and part of the reason we don't like it is we've been so desensitized for like how fast can we absorb information.
Well,
And
and
it's
I've been burned too many times where it's like, here's a thing I want to read. Now it's broke up into 47 different separate slideshows.
Okay, I
and
don't
it's
know if
all-
you guys like to cook, but do you ever click on those recipes? It's like you click on the recipe. It's like a history of the food first, and then it's like,
Yeah,
I don't want the history of the food. Give me the recipe.
just
Yeah.
give me the freaking recipe. Yeah, I'm having flashbacks now. That's funny.
But yeah, you can talk to me on social media at MNVikingZombie. That's on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Twitch, which I don't think anybody's watching on Twitch right now, but we are live on my Twitch account every time we go live. So if you want to follow over there, you're welcome to. But yeah, I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on YouTube. I'm on TikTok at MNVikingZombie. Come hang out.
Adam, I don't know what your plans are Thursday, but maybe I can watch a movie. We can do another movie review. Adam and I do some movie reviews on his page here on YouTube and Twitch.
I've been watching a lot of horror movies.
I
Yeah,
asked you guys the other day which one of those movies I should see, and then I went and saw both of them.
ooh,
Yeah.
I didn't think you should see either of them because neither of them really looked good to me. But
I wanted to go to the theater, and that I'm telling you right now, you might not like both of those, but out of everything that was available, that was the best that I could pick. I was like,
they had
We'll
no
see which one
Godzilla.
I didn't want to see Godzilla.
What?
Maybe I should have taken my son.
Okay,
Maybe
but
should have.
I know Godzilla X Kong probably isn't great, but if you get the chance to watch Godzilla -1, you should watch that one.
I'm not saying I wouldn't. I guess those aren't usually the ones that I go to first.
But I
really
grew up
enamored.
watching a lot of Godzilla, so for me, that was something I really wanted to see. But like I watched Saw X and Immaculate and a bunch of other movies horror movies that I've been slacking on.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to start talking about a few more with you because I just love talking about movies, and I have a passion for football and horror, and I get to talk about football, but haven't gotten to talk about horror in a little while.
Well, we will change that, and hopefully within the next 48 hours, we'll have to figure out which one that we can agree on. Go check Adam's page out there. We do some horror movie reviews too. There's Kyle West for Blue Sky.
Hey, there I am, Vaguely Square, over on Blue Sky. That is my social media platform of choice. I share some of my artwork and stuff over there as well too, which you should check out and help share. I would appreciate it.
Do we still have the link to your art page pinned on the Facebook podcast account?
So
I think it's
right
not
now.
there.
I can tell you right now.
Yeah, because you can go there and you can buy a Purple People podcast shirt. And do you know what?
Mm-hmm.
We would love to see people sharing a picture of themselves in a Purple People podcast hoodie or shirt, because I know there are some out there.
We have the Survival League featured, which I can take down. We can put your stuff back up there. Yeah, I'll try to do that right now when we get done. I don't want to be on my phone while we're still live, but yeah, that's cool. I'll do that. You can buy some of Kyle West's photography work here, which is really cool. You should check that out.
Yeah, even if you're not interested in Purple People podcast gear, there's plenty of other stuff there you can get. Like, what were we talking about? You still have that Hulk Hogan design that you'd made?
Yeah, I still got that up. I still got a pictures
that
of
Hulk Hogan cover
squirrels.
curtain would be pretty sweet.
Yep. All kinds of fun stuff up there.
Good photography from Kyle West, good writing from Adam Carlson, and I really don't have much to offer you there, but we can be friends on the social media. You can watch me talk about my dogs.
You can keep up to date on his album that's coming out here.
Yeah, we're about to start recording. I have to finish. I've started the process of turning a closet into a studio, and it's something. So we're slowly getting there. I don't know if you guys could tell, I muted earlier, but I live next to the city out here, and these are single pane windows from like the 1920s, and you can hear everything. So having to find creative ways to like soundproof everything without actually building a studio. But yes, that'll be coming here. You can follow me on Instagram or X. That's where I do most of my social media stuff.
And if you want one of these Minnesota Vikings light sinks, I bought them on a site that sold stuff from China.
It's cool. I like it.
So yeah, not Temu though. I've never used Temu. I'm afraid of Temu.
I don't trust it at all. That whole if it sounds or feels too good to be true, it is. That's exactly how I feel about that.
Or is it Temu? Or I think they pronounce it different now.
It's I don't know. I'm not going to give them any of my money, so I don't care.
But on that note, I do want to thank everyone who joined us here in chat. You guys always make this so much better. And we are available wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if we're not there, write to us and we'll try to get on there. I know we're on all the major podcast services. Even I've been trying to keep up to date on YouTube podcasts, and I think I've been keeping up all right. Or usually on there the day after or something like that. But yeah, this will be up on other sources probably within the next day or so. So thanks again for joining us. Check out the full catalog on YouTube. And we should be back maybe in about a week.
Yeah, we'll talk about the schedule, any updates, whatever you guys want to talk about. I'm going to start doing a free forum thing. Try to schedule this at least a day in advance. You can comment, tell us what you want to talk about, give us some ideas for conversation. We'll obviously talk about the topic at hand, but
topic at hand is Bernie Cat.
He always jumps in at least one point of the show, and it's the highlight of the show.
Yeah, but once again, stay classy, Minnesota.